Collecting is a creative process, which I enjoy very much. And putting things together in unusual and surprising ways with discoveries is my satisfaction, as opposed to strictly looking at it as a financial derivative and place to park money and way to beat inflation or what have you, which, by the way, is perfectly good too. I'm Adam Lindemann. I'm here with the Baer Facts. I'm here with Josh Baer, and we're about to talk about the Adam sale at Christie's. Welcome.
Adam, I'm glad to see you're still alive, because these sales are usually like posthumous or divorce or something. But you're here. You tell us a little bit about what the heck's going on. Why this sale?
It was the end of last year. I felt like I was ready to turn a page. And a lot of these things have been in my collection for over 20 years. And I was wondering, how do I sort of move into my projects in technology, in art, in the gallery, and how do I sort of turn a page in my life? Because these things have been with me, installed in my home for so long. And so I thought, maybe I'll do something I've never done before, which is do a single owner sale. And so I thought about it and challenged myself and came up with this concept that this was a great idea if it could stand by itself. So find the dead part in the art market where nothing's going on and try to launch this single owner experience which somehow represented my aesthetic, that it had to tell a story, that it wasn't just like buying or selling something, but it was sort of what I enjoy the most, which is putting things together and telling a story. And what's really nuts is that Christie's came to me and said, "Oh yeah, we think it's a great idea." I thought no one would like the idea. I actually was prepared to just fold and cancel the whole thing. I didn't know how people would react. And they said, "This is a great idea. We'll call it Adam." I started laughing.
Well, it's like Adam and Eve. It's like the beginning of time. I also think it's kind of a self-portrait.
I put in a little bit of oceanic, a little bit of tribal art, which I love. I put in the motorcycle for just color and flavor. And I tried to make it look like a group of things that were representative of what I love.
So in that sense, as a dealer, which you are now, to sort of an aspirational way of showing other collectors, look what you could be doing. You could be using the same strategies, the same rigor, the same fun across houses, cars, tribal art, contemporary art. Is that a conversation you've been trying to push with your fellow collectors on the journey the last 30 years?
I mean, I've tried, but this is a sale that's curated and put together by me as a collector. Me as a gallerist has a different life, and so I've quite specifically not put in very little. Some things have perhaps touched the gallery, but none of the gallery artists are in the curated show. It's really about things that I've bought along the way and acquired and enjoyed and loved. So,
how big is the Adam collection? There's about 40 pieces here. Is it out of 100, out of 1,000?
I realized that to make this work, I'd have to cut pretty deep, and I'd have to really part with things that are extremely dear to me, but would make the whole story work. So some of my friends have said, "Oh my God, why are you letting that go?" Or "Why would you ever, you'll never get another one." And I'm like, it's true, I'll never get another one. But for me, I've always kind of done this in the past. I've always collected things that I love and parted with things that are dear to me. And so I had to dig deep and come up with things that kind of hurt to make the sale work. Maurizio Catalan turned me on to Lynn Fawkes when Andrea Rosen did that show so many years ago. And then I saw the show at the Hammer. And I had a few here and there. And then finally, I decided to basically set the world record and buy what I felt was the best in the world. And Lynn Fawkes is an interesting niche artist. It's an amazing painting, but I felt the sale needed it. I felt the sale really needed it. And so, you know, to have these greats that I've admired and loved for so many years, from Hearst to Murakami to Koons to Urs Fischer to my Wade Guyton to, you know, Richard Prince, who I admire and someone who has really been inspirational to me and very helpful to me, I needed to put that fly in the ointment. I needed to mix it up. I needed to part with my Etel Adnan, which I'm crazy about, but I needed to put in, you know, the Lynn Fawkes that is so different. And in the end, I think that it also is good in the sense that to the extent that this sale will reach an audience, people will learn about these artists, see these artists, and see them in a different context.
Let me ask you about the strategies around the sale. Some of the estimates seem pretty low to me. Do you have an auction house strategy that you tend to go with, like, well, high estimate because I don't want to sell it for less than that, or the way to get to the big price is to go low? What's your general philosophy for yourself?
So I have a different view of auctions than perhaps many. My feeling was, if I'm doing this, it's all the way. I'm going to have to put great things, dig deep, part with some things that hurt, and put estimates that are basically, in my view, half or less than half of what the real value is.
Well, they're the same when you add the buyer's premium, which is what, 150% or something. So when you see the estimate and you add 26 or 27%, you're closer to like retail at that point, aren't you?
No. These estimates are less than half. I mean, I just to pick out a lot of the Etel Adnan, I mean, I've had offers of 5 times the estimate. The major things are worth between 50 and 100% of what the estimates are. The estimates, to me, I just live in a world, and perhaps I'm in a bubble, Josh, where people know what things are worth, and so it's nice to have a high estimate, but like, I don't want that. I want an exciting sale, and I think that because it's 39 lots, it will work out.
But when you've been buying at auction, have you found yourself attracted to, hey, that's an estimate, that's an exciting price, and that sometimes you bid or spend more than you would have if it had the high estimate to begin with?
No doubt you're right. And also, remember, this is a single owner sale, mid-season. So how do you get people excited? It's not May, and you know, so it's like I needed to leave a lot of meat on the bone. I needed to leave plenty so that there's like, wow, I could buy this for this and create excitement and energy. I think it's good for the storytelling. And by the way, if it sells poorly, it's my risk, but I think that risk is needed to be taken.
Let me ask you about a marketing question that we were all kind of impressed with, if not stunned, being in Freeze just recently. Every time you call an Uber, there'd be Adam Lindemann's Warhol electric chair like up on the screen. Whose idea was that? How much did that cost?
How much did that cost me? You know, that was so embarrassing. When I first heard the idea, once again, I was like, wow, I'm sitting at the Freeze LA Art Fair, and everyone who goes to the art fair is going to see an ad for me. People were coming over congratulating me. Like,
but did everybody in LA, every time they were taking an Uber, see that? Or was somehow...
I have to give Christie's credit. It was their marketing, and it's a bit embarrassing, but you know what? I think it's great. And this sale has been trying to take a recipe which has existed for decades and centuries perhaps, and come up with a few changes that make it fun, that make it exciting. And I think as we get closer to the sale, you will see, the audience will see that both the installation, the way it's presented, the publication that's coming out, everything is trying to be a little bit different. And I believe that, and I know that the quality of each one of the works is pretty unimpeachable.
Now, it's a two-part question. Had you taken all this material and put it up in your gallery or the big expanded Levy Gorby gallery that's in the opening soon that could hold this. If you put it up in LGDR,
Yes.
it'd have a different kind of feeling to try to sell all these privately versus at auction. How do you sort of feel about that? And part two is I've noticed, like, we talked about this being a believer that Warhol's undervalued and electric chairs are undervalued, and having seen that painting at an art fair, will it suddenly perform better in this context at auction or with the other bells and whistles around it?
Well, first of all, in my own gallery, I almost never show my own things, generally speaking. Of course, I do on occasion have some things I own, and I always acquire my own artists. So, but I'm not. I would never put my personal collection in my gallery.
Or somebody else's gallery, though.
Yeah, George Condo actually said that to me. He's like, "Are you going to put your own things in your gallery?" I'm like, "George, do you know me? Come on." Now, would I put it in another gallery? I have on occasion, but it doesn't tell my story. So here I have the luxury of telling my story, not just looking at it as a financial tool and putting it in someone's gallery and trying to get money out of it, which is nice. Here I'm actually telling a story, which is kind of interesting for me because that's what I love about art.
But do you think buyers like the story? And that's what's
so.
going to get them to maybe reach deeper than if it was just a singular object at Gagosian Gallery or where have you, where it's focused on the objectness.
It's a great question.
Rather than the story.
It's a great question. Listen, I don't know if they're going to reach deeper, but hopefully the story will get them to pay attention. I said to my daughters, like, wow, we're going to make a lot of noise here. And she's like, well, you're doing a mid-season sale. You're going to have to. So there had to be a story. There had to be a narrative. It couldn't be in a gallery. It had to be at auction. And it had to, tell a tale of, what is Adam and how do these things fit together and what would be the aesthetic of the person that would put this together and how does this inform Damien Hirst or Jeff Koons to mix it with a totem from Vanuatu or to put it with a balloon from Andra Ursuta, who's an artist that I've loved from early on in her career, but how does that affect a Warhol electric chair?
How long did it take you as a collector to realize great collections tell a narrative? Was that 10 or 20 years in, you realized these are the stories I'm actually telling? How long it took you to understand that collections tell a story?
Yeah. Well, that's a really good question because to me, a collection tells a story. But I don't think that the art market, generally speaking, and that many collectors need their art to tell a story. A lot of people are buying art because they want to have a great eye, they want to know what's great, they want to be in early, or they want to be at a good price, or they want to have something that's worth more. The idea of collecting telling a story is perhaps a little more European or a little more personal, but to me, as a collector, collecting is a creative process, which I enjoy very much. And putting things together in unusual and surprising ways with discoveries is my satisfaction of enjoying the creative process of collecting, as opposed to strictly looking at it as a financial derivative and place to park money and way to beat inflation or what have you, which, by the way, is perfectly good too.
Some people might think of you as a flipper. In fact, there's very few flips in this. First of all, what do you think of flippers? Are you in this?
Well, that's a great question, Josh. Thank you. Listen, I'm always, well, not always, but very much against buying young artists at galleries, including my own, and putting them at auction. It happens all the time. It's not my habit to do so, and it never has been. On occasion, famous occasions, I have bought something primary for 7 figures, over 7 figures, and sold them for 8. At some point in time, financial realities come into play. However, I really don't believe in that, don't agree with that. There's exceptions to every rule. I've had very, very few. In this sale, very deliberately, absolutely everything except for one or two things have been acquired at auction or on the secondary market. So there's no primary material here. There's nothing that came from any gallery. If you look at the provenance, you see I bought it at auction, and you can research and see how much I paid for it, and you'll see that, you know, the estimates are quite reasonable. Now, in the unusual instance where there is perhaps one, this is a friend of mine, and I believe that I'm doing a service by creating awareness and mixing a younger artist with Warhol and Calder.
Which artist?
I have a painting that I love by my friend Jamie and Giuliani Villani. And I am a fan of hers, and I consider myself a friend. And I asked her up front that, this would go in an auction because I thought it was important, and I thought it fit the theme, and I thought it told the story. And, every artist is initially very worried because they're told it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. But in fact, whatever. There's a lot of love there.
Self-portrait kind of one from that artist, so you'll be able to help my clients get one maybe.
You have a self-portrait?
No, we want one.
Oh.
So you'll make a call for us, right?
But generally speaking, it's true what you said. Everything was coming from auction or from galleries. The historic material was I bought from dealers. And look, the Coons I bought at Sotheby's, famously for me. The Damien Hirst is from the pharmacy sale. There were only 3 cabinets in the pharmacy sale in 2002. One of them went to a French collector, one of them went to me, the other one Damien owns. I mean, that's the end of the story. The Murakami, which was in the Qatar show, it was in the amazing Brooklyn show, it's in every early important Murakami show and book. I bought that at Sotheby's. The Wade Guyton I bought privately. So generally speaking, there are some exceptions. The Urs Fischer is something that I felt the sale would tremendously benefit from, and it's a dramatic, amazing outdoor installation. So there are some exceptions, but generally speaking, I think that the whole package works, and you want a good sale. Like, you want a mix that works. I didn't want to throw in things that
I have 2 final questions. One is, will there be an announcement that parties with interested relationships to the seller may be bidding? Like, is your wife going to be bidding? Are you going to bid on your own stuff? Your kids? Your brother? Are you thinking about bidding on any of your own things?
I should buy them back. No, that's not part of the game. I think when you do something like this, it's funny. To go back to the beginning, you said this is what you do when you're dead. But I did see Jacques Grange did it, and Peter did one in a different way. I often thought about the Yves Saint Laurent sale. I'm of course far from that, but it's funny to look at these things that you've owned for decades and loved, and the moment of parting with them is a kind of an end of a story.
When I first saw the news about it, what jumped out to me was the charitable aspect to it. I heard that $1 million is going to Avenues for Justice. Thank you, Adam. But tell us, as a famous philanthropist, what was going on with the charity? Who else is also benefiting from this?
Well, I think we, the privileged, never give enough in general. And I'm as guilty of that as anyone. However, I've been a fan of the Metropolitan Museum since, as a child, I grew up in the neighborhood and used to throw Frisbees back and forth across the fountains. And I'm a huge fan of mixing the old and the new. And that's part of my collection, is mixing the old and the new. So I've been a real collector and an aficionado of African, oceanic, and art of the Americas, pre-Columbian particularly. I was a Mayan nut, an Aztec, and love Africa and everything to do with African art. and the Pacific, and now I've been focused on Oceania for the last couple of years. But I've been on the steering committee of the Rockefeller Wing, which is where all the oceanic and African art is, for many years. And I've now been the head of the committee for about 2 years. So I thought that part of this sale should benefit an interest of mine personally. So we've only put in one Vanuatu totem. That's just a symbol. It's not part of like the bigger picture. It's just one thing there to remind people how exciting the Rockefeller Wing is. And I think that Elisa Lagama, my friend, who was the director of the wing, put in a few words in the auction catalog and in the sale. And Max Holein, our new director, relatively new director, I'm a huge fan of what he's doing. And so I thought that the sale should have some philanthropic angle. And so I'm making a gift out of the proceeds to help finish the Rockefeller Wing, which will be done in 2 years, and which will be amazing because it's part of making New York. They're very smart about this. They're continuing to think of New York as the capital of the world. And if New York is the capital of the world, as a New Yorker, I certainly hope it is, it's important to have work from Africa, from pre-Columbian sites, from Peru, from Vanuatu, or from Papua New Guinea. I mean, all these people, when they come to New York, they find something that's their own. And so I think it's just a great thing to do, and part of this multicultural, open-minded way I like to think about art.
The Baer Fax would like to thank you, Adam, for letting us into your home, giving us insight into how you collect. Next week, March 9th, the sale, we'll see the results. You'll either be proven perfectly genius, or you'll say, what did I do? Which is it going to be, Adam? Thank you.
We shall soon know. But Josh, always a pleasure, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, thanks.